Greetings, grade 12s. So a short little video here just going through the concept of mitochondrial DNA. So up until this point, we've been discussing the concept that DNA, the deoxyribonucleic acid, is this molecule, nucleic acid, that exists only inside the nucleus. So this concept that it is kind of stuck there, and if we're talking protein synthesis, the RNA is the molecule that is moving in and out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm to be able to do that. But remember I told you in the very beginning there are many different forms of nucleic acid. So mitochondrial DNA is yet another form of these nucleic acids. So because it is DNA, it is still a double-stranded polynucleotide. It's still got two strands of nucleotides that are together, but it is now found, as the name says, in the mitochondria. So because it is found in the mitochondria and not found in the nucleus, it is referred to as extrachromosomal DNA. Extrachromosomal, yes. So this means that it is found outside of the nucleus, not attached to the actual chromosomes itself. So because we are talking about the mitochondria, because this DNA exists in the mitochondria itself, this DNA is going to be assisting with the function of the mitochondria, which is, as a reminder, cellular respiration, the creation of energy. So these structures are going to be creating the proteins required for energy to be created, such as ATP synthase, the thing that makes the ATP molecule, ADH hydrogenase, all those kind of things, as well as having regulatory functions such as the creation of the tRNA molecules and all those kind of things that help with the regulation of cellular respiration. So one thing that you can notice about the difference in terms of this structure to what we look at for normal DNA is that this is a circle, or it is a ring structure. Ooh, spinning. So this DNA is in a circular structure as opposed to the normal DNA chromosomal structure, which is different. So that's an important thing to note. So where does this become important for us? Why is this? So yes, we know that this is regulating the function of the mitochondria, but where does it become useful to us? Well, if we go back to human reproduction, we are wanting to look at this combination of the egg cell and the sperm cell. So if we remember, the two things that we are caring about is the nucleus of the egg cell and the nucleus of the sperm cell. So we're wanting to combine these two to be able to create a zygote. But a zygote, the egg that is there, still needs to have organelles in order for it to function. So in this particular image, you can see that there are mitochondria that are here, the mitochondria. There are also mitochondria in the sperm cell because the sperm cell does need the mitochondria for the energy, in order for the energy to be created, for it to move, to get to where it needs to go. But the important thing is that when these two combine, the mitochondria of your sperm cell do not go into the egg cell. So only the nucleus of the sperm cell will go into the egg cell. So what does that mean? It means then that all the mitochondria in your egg cell came from your mother, and therefore your zygote. And therefore all the mitochondria in your body came from your mother. And therefore, by extension, all the mitochondrial DNA within your body came from your mother. Where does this become useful? If we know that this is passed down from mother to offspring, we can then trace maternal lineage. So tracing back through your mother's line. So you can trace between you and your mother. If you had an individual who is a sibling and you don't know if they're your sibling, you can trace through a potential mother's sample. You can go to your mother's mother and your mother's mother's mother, all that kind of stuff. Through those lineages, we can trace. Now, because this mitochondrial DNA is not combining with anything else. It is just existing as it is. Remember, when we had these two nuclei that were combining here, there was a meiosis that was occurring, there was crossing over, there was genes that were changing, but these mitochondria are not actually changing much. So what we know is that the rate of mutation is slow in these particular mitochondria. So the odds that you are going to have a huge change in the mitochondria are very low. Knowing this, when a mutation does occur, we can create genetic markers on these different mutations, because generally these mutations will happen within an ethnic group, within a difference in location, within something that has maybe happened to you from there. So we can then use this as part of an evolutionary research to tell where certain individuals have originated from and be able to trace back through much further lines that we have. Yes, we can trace immediately in terms of maternal lineage if you have a certain marker or not, in terms of the DNA sequence, but where it really becomes more important is when we talk evolution. And if we go even further back, as far back as we can in humans, we will eventually arrive at Mitochondrial Eve. So Mitochondrial Eve is this theoretical female who is the ancestor of all humans who are currently alive today. So if we were to trace back every single human who is alive today, if we were to go back through all their mothers, all their maternal generations, we would arrive at this individual called Mitochondrial Eve. Now, we don't have an actual skeleton of this person, an actual DNA sequence. It is all just theory because we can't go that far back and do our sort of research. But as a summary, all people are related to Mitochondrial Eve regardless of perceived race. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, where you come from, what you've done, you will be related to Mitochondrial Eve. So based on this regression, we believe or theorize that she lived in East Africa, and the date is between roughly 150 to 180,000 years ago. The date is generally constantly changing. People are kind of like, based on new research, but it's generally East Africa. And the idea that Asians, Europeans, and Africans are all descendant directly from this Mitochondrial Eve. All other people will then be a descendant from Asian, European, African, but it eventually all comes back to Mitochondrial Eve. So, as a little quick recap and just to sort of ask questions, if you were asked, where is DNA found in your cell, you can now say two places. You can say that it's found in the nucleus and that it's found in the mitochondria, because DNA is found in both of those. We know that mitochondrial DNA is a ring structure. And we know that it helps to control cellular respiration in the actual mitochondria itself. We know that we can use mitochondrial DNA to trace maternal lineages because the mitochondrial DNA does not change from mother to child, remains relatively stable in its mutations because the mutation rate is slow. We can use those genetic markers to create ways that we can understand who has come from where. And if we were to trace far back enough, we would eventually come on this individual known as Mitochondrial Eve, this theoretical last female ancestor of all humans who exist today. One final AIM 3 question that we could ask is, where did mitochondrial DNA come from? So just have a think about that very quickly. Where did mitochondrial DNA come from? Well, the theory is that back in many, many long times ago, when it was like literally just the bacteria that was existing 2 billion years ago, archaebacteria, all that kind of stuff, it was believed that the mitochondria itself was its own organism. It existed by itself. It was this ancient, not exactly as it is now, but this ancient form of this organism. It is believed that there was then a symbiotic relationship that was then created between a certain type of bacteria and this mitochondria, where they fused, and then they managed to exist together even though there were two different sets of DNA. But if you want, go and do more reading on this. Go and find out. If you want, go and read more about Mitochondrial Eve. It's very fascinating. Go and try and find out about ancestral Adam as well. There's theories that are relating around that. And that's also some really good reading for you guys. Otherwise, I hope you are doing really well. And I hope that you're enjoying the studying. Keep up the good work, guys.